My name is Mike Celestino. I'm with laughingplace.com, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with documentary filmmaker Laurent Bouzereau.
Thanks,
Uh,
Mike. Okay, well, you like Jaws. I can tell you a nice little pile of collectibles behind you.
yes, Jaws is my favorite film ever made, and I'm so thrilled to be talking with you about this documentary. And also, I was looking back at your filmography, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the first behind the scenes documentary you ever directed was the 1995 Making of Jaws feature for the 20th anniversary Laserdisc. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the second one I ever directed, but
Okay.
yeah, it came out before the first one I directed, so I guess it qualifies.
Okay. So, my question for you is, what have you learned through your career in the past 30 years since then that helped you reframe your approach for Jaws at 50?
Well, I think that anything that turns 50 is a milestone, even a person. You ask yourself, am I still relevant? Am I still connecting with the new generations? And I think in the case of Jaws, we don't have to worry because it does, you know. And so it's been an interesting relationship for me because I think my first documentary was very much encyclopedic kind of approach, like kind of the Wikipedia of whatever the Laserdisc was at the time. But this was really, I wanted to really make an emotional movie, something from the human experience, the point of view of not only Steven Spielberg, but also the Islanders and also Shark Conservancy, because there are very few films that have had that kind of staying power and have had that kind of impact on society and culture and cinema and science. So I really wanted to underline that in a way that was very relatable, human, even for young generations who may not have seen Jaws. Um, but understand, that this is the making of it essentially, rather than focusing on the number of sharks and all that stuff, which I talk about, but really much more about, how the production itself was a mirror to the story itself. You have three guys trying to kill a shark, and you have one guy on his team trying to make it work. And it's an interesting a parallel and just sort of again very few movies have that sort of incredible connectivity between the story being told and the story of making it.
Absolutely. I have to ask you about John Williams because I saw music by John Williams at the El Capitan Theater here in LA, and it made
Oh,
me cry. It was such an emotional experience for me. So congratulations on that film. But to your mind, how important is John Williams' music in the story of Jaws as a film?
it's twofold, actually. I think the first one is if you put yourself in Steven's position, finishing this film, notoriously a horrible production, so difficult, nearly, gives him PTSD and all that. But his hope is that potentially the music is going to help elevate the story. And he sits down with John, and John goes ta da ta da, two notes basically, and the fact that once he got over it, uh, uh, um, that he trusted it, um, and that basically the music became a character or gave, a voice to this monster that the shark is, uh, brought a whole new, elevated the film in many ways, something that Stephen himself has acknowledged. And so that kind of experience when the thing that you thought again was going to destroy you is elevated by one of your collaborators is bonding forever. You were part of the thing that made Jaws a success. And Steven has this wonderful story of being online at Baskin Robbins when the film came out, and he was not yet, immediately recognizable. And he's online, and people are humming Jaws now, and this is like the week it came out. So that's, you always hope to make that kind of impact, but the fact that the music played such an incredible role in the success of the film is insane. And that was the first soundtrack that I'll never forget. My dad coming back from America, opening his suitcase, and there is the Jaws album. And this is before I saw it, you know. So I'm like imagining all kinds of things, you know, by listening to the score. And so John, you know, who you know, the honor of doing his life story for my film, um, anytime I can highlight, you know, the impact he's had is a beautiful opportunity for me to pay tribute to his contributions.
Great. I'm curious. You've made so many documentaries over the years, but have you worked with National Geographic before? And how has that experience been different compared to the other documentary work?
Well, no, I had not worked with Nat Geo before, but they were an obvious and really powerful partner in this because we knew, and that was very much Wendy Benchley as well as Stephen himself, you know, wanting to tap into the shark aspect of it. Stephen wanting to use the shark as a metaphor, and same thing with Peter when he wrote the book. You know, even though they were thriving for realism, you know, they knew that the shark and or when it's not visible, the idea of the monster beneath you in the darkness, you know, when you're at your most vulnerable, you know, was just the stuff of movie monsters. But of course, you know, Shark got a really bad name after the film came out, and there was literally a massacre of sharks, which is something that I didn't really
Hmm.
grasp until now. Shame on me. But I would say that the fact that Nat Geo was part of this film really, not only did they provide incredible footage that I wouldn't have been able to use under other circumstances, but also provided an incredible list of people to participate. And it's a world I don't know, so they guided me and also at the same time, you know, from all of us, including Nat Geo, there was this goal of not wanting to be you know, or do an after school special which has its place but somewhere else, and sort of remain, you know, entertaining. And so finding the balance between, you know, shedding a spotlight on those issues uh, um, was a challenge and one that I embraced because I knew I was protected by all those people wanting to tell a very entertaining story, which I hope this is.
Definitely. I loved the film. I have to ask you, at the beginning of the documentary, you asked Steven Spielberg whether there's anything he hadn't said about Jaws in interviews before. Do you feel that ultimately you got anything fresh and new out of him personally?
Yeah, I mean, you know, first of all, the 50th anniversary alone, 50 years is unique. You know, you may have had 49 birthday before, but your 50th will be this benchmark. And I think it's a time for reflection, especially when you've had a career as illustrious as Stevens, as successful as he's been. So for him to have sort of the courage to look back at something that was obviously, you know, terrorizing and painful and difficult is priceless, really. So that to me felt like I felt reassured that is never been talked about, you
Hmm.
know, by virtue of the milestone. And then the story about him crying on the back lot and hiding on the orca
Orca, yeah.
was not something that I really knew about even though I'm sure it's been out there to some degree, but it's not something that I knew about in that way. So I was very moved by that. And you know, the perspective of all those different filmmakers. And ocean, you know, scientists really offered a generational view into the film that I don't think has ever been captured in that way on that specific and you know, I chose very specific directors who all have benefited from Jaws in different ways and for different reasons. So all of that was hopefully well thought out and doesn't feel like a catalog of people, but more of intense close-ups into the impact of a great work of art.
Well, that's my time, and I really want to thank you for chatting with me. It was so a great experience watching the film, and then I'm so glad to meet you and to speak with you about Jaws at 50. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.